A young teacher named Nancy Ng from California decided to try yoga with her sister Nikki. Nikki thought it'd be great to give it a shot, especially since the first class at the yoga center was free. It was a brand new experience for both of them. One sister got hooked on yoga while the other decided it wasn't for her. Unexpectedly, one vanished from the yoga retreat, leaving the other blaming herself for introducing yoga in the first place. Welcome to Behind the Crime with Victoria. Today's story is fresh, a case I've been following closely. In 2023, Nancy Ng, age 29, was the eldest in a big family. Besides her, her parents had another girl and two boys. They were a tight-knit bunch, staying close as adults. They celebrated holidays together, shared experiences, and helped each other and their parents. Nancy was quick to apologize if there was ever a fight. She was always kind to her family. On October 12, 2023, the family gathered to celebrate Nikki's birthday at a Chinese restaurant. Nancy excitedly shared her plans. She was going to a yoga retreat at Lake Atitlan in Guatemala in a couple of days. She was packing already. Despite her busy teaching schedule, she'd been eagerly waiting for this trip for months. It'd be her second time at the retreat. Atitlan is South America's deepest lake, known for its beautiful views surrounded by volcanoes. The villages around the lake are popular tourist spots. People who visit retreats, it's like a summer camps for grown-ups. The retreat's cost usually covers accommodation, meals, activities, and yoga sessions, all planned out for each day. There are various retreat centers catering to different preferences and budgets, offering yoga, hiking, vinyasana, vipassana, and more. You can also experience the local culture, and Nancy saw it as a paradise. A year ago, in 2022, Nancy had already been on a yoga retreat here and loved it. Yoga suited her well. A lively girl who cared for her friends before herself. During yoga, she felt free and even shed a few tears during sessions, which is pretty normal. Nancy was unique. She could chat with someone for hours, genuinely interested in their life. Once, while recycling with her sister, she ended up talking to a man for an hour about his family, his work, his problems, about everything. And her sister had to remind her it was time to leave. During yoga, Nancy valued the time alone, something she missed in her daily routine. She even took on 30-day challenge, going to the yoga club every day after work because she loved it so much. At school, Nancy was loved by her students. Her job suited her perfectly because she worked with special kids who needed extra care and attention. She'd even pick up trash from the street, collecting bottles for recycling. She cared a lot about the environment. But deep down, she was still a bit of a kid. Her sister recently shared a story telling us how Nancy might just go out and dance in the rain, loving every bit of it. She was super excited about her upcoming trip to Guatemala for a yoga retreat. Her eyes sparkled with enthusiasm when she talked about it. Her family wasn't too worried about this trip because she'd been there before with the same group and it wasn't a wild party scene. They were happy for her and expected her to return home with lots of stories. She asked for a ride to the airport at the table, but strangely, nobody answered her. Nancy was always running late. Her dad joked that if she managed to be on time for $500, he'd give her $600, including $100 extra for punctuality. She'd laugh and say that she would ask someone of her friends. Everyone teased her about being late, and she was totally aware of it. Despite her habit of running late, she somehow caught her flight to Guatemala a few days later. She joined a retreat called Be the Change, led by an instructor from Los Angeles named Eduard Rimada. His page talked about yoga philosophy, self love, and loving others, and Nancy trusted him. Her first trip with this group was smooth. Most people there were Americans or had been living in America for a while. Eddie was from Cuba. Besides yoga, the group of 11 did other activities. On October 19th, they kayaked on the lake, and there is a video of a smiling Nancy paddling with other tourists. Those are the last pictures of her while she was alive. After this kayak trip, 10 people left the retreat early, but Nancy didn't. Around the time, Nancy's dad got a strange call saying Nancy is no longer with us. At first, they thought she might decide to stay longer in Guatemala. Her sister Nikki found it odd, but she believed a single conversation could persuade Nancy. The problem was Nancy's phone was off when she arrived at the retreat, so nobody could call her. This phone call hit them hard. The family dialed back only to hear that Nancy had gone swimming and vanished. They hinted Nancy wouldn't be coming home, making them think she chose to stay. The whole family was shocked and confused. Nancy's dad felt guilty for teaching her to swim. It's something parents sometimes feel when something happened with their kids. They tried to learn what happened, where Nancy was, and if anyone searched for her. From others, they heard Nancy fell off her kayak on the 19th and vanished underwater. Some say they saw her disappear, others thought she drowned. These vague bits were what the family knew at first. What was clear? The group of 10 left without Nancy, didn't pay for her kayak, and flew back to America without telling the Guatemala police. Let's look at that day again. Nancy was seen around 10 a.m. Then she's on a kayak, and what happened next? It's unclear if anyone saw what happened. No one helped her. No one cared when she didn't come back. The group left without paying and flew away. The lady who was working on the kayak company asked, "Where is the other kayak? You brought back only 9. Some say 10 went and 9 returned. Others say there was one more, but anyway, where is the lost one?" No one said a word. The police report? Not from the judges or the organizer. It was the kayak lady who asked what happened, where Nancy was, and why the kayak wasn't back. The hotel started its own probe 24 hours later. The police talked to the judges but found nobody. The hotel was empty and no one shared anything. It feels like a weird world. This isn't what you expect from adults on a yoga retreat seeking peace, turning off phones, and aiming for enlightenment. The search went on for 3 days, scouring the water and the land, but found nothing. The question is logical. Did she drown or is she somewhere else? They're about to report finding her kayak. Strangely, it was found on the water without any of Nancy's things. According to someone close, the last person to see Nancy was Christina Blazek, a lawyer from California at the retreat. They paddled together, then moved away from the group towards the middle of the lake, and around 11 a.m., Nancy decided to swim while the waves were strong. Christina held onto Nancy's kayak to keep it close while Nancy swam. But when Christina looked back, Nancy had vanished underwater. It's unclear if Christina told this to the media or to the police. It was in a news report. She hasn't talked to the family. Nancy's siblings want answers from Christina, though she says she's cooperated with the police and helped in the search. Let's suppose she did. But it's really puzzling. How could she drown when everyone's supposed to wear life jackets for water activities? Surprisingly, none of them had any life jackets. The lady who rented the kayaks told reporters that each person gets to decide whether to wear one or not. It seems it's not a mandatory rule, so people decided for themselves. Nancy's sister, reflecting on their past kayaking experience in New York, where they both chose to wear life jackets. Can't fathom why Nancy would skip such a basic safety measure. It's tough for her to believe that Nancy would ignore safety protocols. It's like she doesn't think Nancy could drown at all. I know it sounds spine chilling. My dad, he sleeps with his phone close, hoping against hope for a call. If there is a ransom call, it means Nancy's alive and waiting for us to find her somewhere. When the retreat group returned to the US, they all kept mum. Nancy's family relentlessly tried to gather information about their daughter and sister, but they faced a wall of silence. Every communication with the media was channeled through their respective lawyers. Christina, the lady present during the incident, made claims that she didn't immediately leave Guatemala after everything happened. She mentioned having a conversation with the police, yet there is no official confirmation of this. Did she fabricate the story? Her lawyer made a statement suggesting the police wouldn't take any action, citing that people often drown in that lake. Nancy's family made multiple attempts to reach out to Christina, asking about the incident and seeking assistance in the search, but Christina remained unresponsive. Interestingly, it was Nancy's family who funded the search operation and also managed to collect donations. They believed that if other participants from the retreat had offered help or at least made a public statement, it could draw greater attention to the case. Curiously, it took Christina a good 4 weeks before she disclosed crucial details to journalists. She also noted that the water at the spot where Nancy disappeared was dark. Unfortunately, as this vital information wasn't shared earlier, the search initially focused on the wrong areas along the shore. Why didn't Christina reveal these details sooner when time was of the essence? That is super strange. If Christina had warned Nancy, she surely would have listened, and she wouldn't have gone into the water, especially if there were high waves. Nancy is a good swimmer. I don't understand how this could have happened. How long did she fight for her life? Did Christina hear her cries for help? What really happened there? Did she simply vanish, disappear? Could she have reached the shore and saved herself? It's unclear to me. We all are still haunted by these questions. Shares her sister Nikki. So there is 3 versions what happened with Nancy. The first one, she just vanished, she just drowned. The second version suggests that the retreat participants are involved. Supporting this version is the fact that they all flew out of Guatemala within a day. But what exactly happened there? We don't know. This version doesn't quite align with the idea and philosophy of yoga. Yoga isn't about violence, it's about love, balance, and acceptance. But perhaps we forgot all of the moment no one rushed to search for her after she disappeared. Imagine you are at a yoga retreat, someone is drawing, and people not only refuse to pay for her kayak, but also don't rush to look for her, don't even report her disappearance for 24 hours. And then they fly back home. The kayak rental company owners said that the group didn't say anything to them, meaning they got out of the water altogether, returned the kayaks, and didn't explain what happened, didn't say why they were one person short now. How do they explain that? They explain it by saying they all might have been in shock. They might have feared for their fate, but that's no reason not to report to the police or call for rescuers. What if Nancy dove underwater when Christina turned to look for her? When she resurfaced, Christina already panicked and was going back. Then they simply left the girl to die alone on the lake. And if they had at least asked the kayak owners to call rescuers immediately, Nancy could have been discovered instantly and possibly even saved. We are left with several versions of Nancy's fate. If she did drown, her body would have stayed submerged for long due to cases unless aquatic creatures intervened. Many people were involved in the search, and the nearby villagers were informed about the missing girl. If her body had washed up, someone would have surely noticed. But how did she drown? Some find it hard to believe because Nancy was a proficient swimmer. But swimming skills aren't always enough against natural elements, especially in open water and high waves. Christina asserted she tried to stop Nancy from entering the water, but Nancy didn't heed her advice. That doesn't quite match. Nancy's usual cautious behavior, and everyone knew Nancy as a very cautious girl. The third version suggests that Nancy might have been abducted. It's rare with tourists in South America, but it happens. The American government even now advises its citizens not to travel to Guatemala since there has been a sudden rise in crime in the country. However, we can't do without information from the other retreat participants. If Nancy was indeed kidnapped that day, they surely saw or heard something. Some people from Guatemala write on social media that many retreat center hosts offer various drugs to their guests. Could illegal substances have been involved here? Then it's understandable why everyone acted so strangely. Why wait 24 hours before going to the police? Why leave immediately? But to be fair, they seemed quite rational in that video. Of course, there were also other supernatural versions. Lake Atitlan is shrouded in legends, leaving plenty of room for speculation. Less than a month after Nancy's disappearance, the searchers stopped. Practically all the search efforts were funded by Nancy's family. They hired helicopters, divers, and specialists. They were also recruiting volunteers. It was an incredible amount of work, and the company providing helicopters asked any witnesses, of which we know there were some, to come forward and say what they saw and where to search, because the lake is super big. But this wasn't done in a timely manner. Ultimately, after a month, they searched, literally inspecting the entire lake from the air, and divers went down a maximum of 40 meters, while the lake's depths reach up to 300. At this point, there is nothing more that can be done. The police stated that the retreat participants are cooperating with the investigation, but as of now, it hasn't yielded any results. In this whole story, there is only one witness, and when such thing happens, there are always many questions for that person. It's understandable why Christina is now only communicating with the media through her lawyer. Nevertheless, it would have been better if she had at least answered the family's questions, just on a personal level. If the organizer of this retreat had prepared some kind of statement, well, that would have been better too. If they had spoken up, admitted what happened, explained that they're trying to figure it out, that they were under immense stress, and that they won't behave in that way anymore, instead of deleting their website as they did, and the behavior of Christina. I read an interesting statement claiming that she only started speaking about what happened after her name began showing up in the news and official reports. Before that, they referred vaguely to a witness without naming anyone. Then suddenly, her name was out there, and it seemed like she felt compelled to act. Currently, the FBI has joined the investigation. They are considering Nancy's disappearance as an accident for now because there is no proof pointing to anyone else's involvement. Meanwhile, Nancy's family holds on to hope. They keep telling themselves something they used to say often: Nancy will be back soon. She's just a bit late as usual. This belief keeps them going. That is the whole story. We have to acknowledge that it's likely Nancy isn't alive anymore, and drowning might have been what happened. Please share your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next episode. Bye.